Hello, welcome to Uncensored Conservatism. This is episode number 289, going to go around the United States, starting out here in Alaska, where the National Weather Service issued their first ever heat advisory for the state, with temperatures reaching a balmy 85 degrees, but it's a dry heat. It isn't that Alaska is immune to 85-degree weather, it's just that the National Weather Service just recently allowed for heat advisories in that state. So don't get your hopes up there, climate change freaks. Judge in Idaho advised lawyers for Brian Kohberger, shown here, to get ready for trial likely in August of this year. Kohberger is accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students. His lawyers are arguing for a delay since they have not reviewed all discovery material and are still developing a witness list for his defense. They argue that to go to trial now would simply be unfair. Montana Governor Greg Gianforte vetoed a recent bill that would have allowed for a legal framework for community solar power projects in the state. Participants would get an ownership stake in such projects. The measure was opposed by the 2 major electric utilities in Montana, and the governor claims the credit offsets proposed would create methodological problems. There was widespread support in the legislature, and an override is possible. Hundreds of people gathered in the Minnesota Capitol, including Tampon Timmy here, shown crying, at a vigil for Minnesota politician Melissa Hortman and her husband, killed in a targeted assassination by Vance Hortman. The killing has focused a spotlight on political violence, some of it spearheaded by Tampon Timmy. The Wisconsin Supreme Court overturned a state law that would have required a Democratic state attorney general to get legislative approval to settle certain lawsuits. The court ruled it was a violation of their state constitution's separation of powers. The law targeted the former governor, Tony Evers, and his Democratic attorney general. Wildlife officials in Michigan were finally able to trap a brown bear that had a large lid stuck around his neck for 2 friggin' years. Now, the bear was first viewed on a trail camera as a cub 2 years ago while wearing the strange necklace. Officials report it's amazing it was able to eat, and that despite some lost hair around its neck, it is in general good health. So, yay for the little bear. Elon Musk and X are suing the state of New York over their law that would require social media platforms to explain how they deal with what they call problematic posts. Musk successfully challenged a similar law in California. He argues that the state is injecting itself into content moderation and it's a free speech issue, and quite frankly, he's correct. In Vermont, well, enough said. Data released by the federal government indicates that the state of Maine has the largest increase in their foster care population. In 2023, Maine placed 4.14 children per 100,000 population into foster care by removing them from their parents. The primary reason, according to officials, is an increase in substance abuse problems among the parents and a lack of lawyers for those parents in order to reunify families. A baby raccoon was separated from its mother in a rainstorm in Massachusetts and was found cowering on the doorsteps of a home, looking worse for wear. I'd say so. And look, he's trying to ring the doorbell. Animal control people responded and rescued the critter and took it to a shelter where it's doing well. They have been unable to find the mother, prompting Maine officials to interfere and place the raccoon in foster care. In Rhode Island, well, like Vermont and Bernie, enough said, you keep electing this dick to the Senate, so this one's on you. Well, the mysterious disappearance of former police detective Mary Notarangelo in Connecticut was finally solved. The notorious recluse, known for her social media posts about her birds, and known to officials as a notorious hoarder, was found dead in her home under a pile of junk piled near the front door. Actually, her skeletal remains were found, and this is a lesson not to hoard things. There's no word on the whereabouts of her birds. New Jersey State Supreme Court ruled that the state attorney general can impanel a grand jury to investigate allegations of sexual abuse by Catholic clergy members in the state. This comes after the Diocese of Camden dropped its opposition to an investigation. So the halfway point of the almost 2,200 mile Appalachian Trail is the Pine Grove Furnace General Store in Pennsylvania, and they have a tradition for hikers. Eat half a gallon of ice cream before continuing on your trek. This tradition's been going on for 4 decades now. Incidentally, a half gallon of ice cream is 2,500 calories, so you get to hike them off afterwards. And I don't know why this makes news. Anyway, a judge in Ohio has tossed a defamation lawsuit brought by a former doctor named William Hussel, who sued his former employers. Hussel was acquitted on the murder of 25 patients who died of overdoses. Although the trial was ongoing, the judge never let it reach the jury and declared the defense had proven its case. And Hussel, tough shit, you're not entitled to anything. Personal data of Illinois Medicaid recipients, including their immigration status, has been turned over to the Department of Homeland Security. Illinois is one of 3 states plus the District of Columbia that allow immigrants, legal or illegal, to enroll in Medicaid. Over 500,000 residents in the Des Moines, Iowa area were issued a water warning after unusually high levels of nitrates were found in the water. Believed to be runoff from farmland into the rivers, officials note that if the levels reach 1 more milligram per liter, it would cause harm to young children and pregnant women. So far, they've only banned the watering of a lawn. Sorry, but South Dakota, you just continue to be boring. Portland, Oregon held their annual gay prom for gay and transgender kids in the city. This year's event theme was Pink Pony Club, whatever the fuck that is. Drag artists performed, and the young gays and freaks threw fake money at the performers and then danced the night away. Oh, they pranced and pranced. California is proposing a law that would charge any law enforcement officer with a misdemeanor if they cover their face in any manner. Yeah, good luck with enforcing this one against ICE, ATF, or the FBI. In fact, any federal officer, since they are immune from state laws. No word on whether protesters wearing masks will be prosecuted for doing the same. Probably not, since this is California we're talking about here. This is virtue signaling at its worst. The state of Nevada is paying $753,000 in fines for contempt of court after they failed to provide or delayed mental treatment to 9 people who were deemed incompetent to stand trial. The fines were calculated at $500 per day for each of the 9 people not treated. Seems like a racket to me, but anyway. Last Saturday was no King's Day, which led to protests nationwide against you-know-who. In Salt Lake City, Utah, things got a little out of hand when a man was shot and killed. Now, before anyone thinks this was political, it seems 2 people allegedly part of the quote-unquote protest peacekeeping team are the perpetrators, and the victim was accidentally struck. 2 men in Colorado from New York had to be rescued 14,300 feet up on Mount Torrey, west of Denver, after they were struck by lightning after reaching the summit. It's believed to be the highest mountain rescue in Colorado history. Unpredictable and dangerous thunderstorms are the norm in the late afternoon in the Rockies. And guess what, Nebraska, you're also boring. And perhaps the biggest sports story of the week, Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce will return for another year with the NFL team. There was some speculation that he would hang up his cleats. Unfortunately, Chief fans, that means at least another year of this. The U.S. Justice Department is challenging a Kentucky law that grants in-state tuition to illegal immigrants or children of illegal immigrants. This comes on the heels of a government victory over a similar law in Texas. Flash flooding in northern West Virginia has killed at least 6 people in that state and left others homeless. Torrential rainstorms dropped 4 inches of rain in less than a half hour. No doubt somewhere some Democrat will blame this on climate change. And in Delaware, William McBride continues to cosplay as a female. A 6-foot alligator checked into a hotel in Fairfax County, Virginia. The alligator escaped from its owner, who pulled into a rest stop en route from New York to a zoo in North Carolina. The pesky devil was eventually captured and he was returned to his owner, and police escorted the pair out of the county. A three-judge panel in North Carolina recently opened up a trial into allegations of racial gerrymandering in that state's legislative and federal districts. Specifically, the usual suspects like the NAACP argued that black voting power was diluted with the current districts. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And they bitch about Republican gerrymandering, but not when black districts are gerrymandered. So go figure. Well, Grant Hardin. Oops, sorry. Well, Grant Hardin. There he is. The so-called Devil of the Ozarks in Arkansas, who was serving a sentence for murder and rape, was recaptured after he escaped from prison. The jerk entered a plea of not guilty after being charged with escaping from prison. I wonder what his defense will be. I mean, you escape from prison, dude. In absolutely great news, the Supreme Court upheld a Tennessee law that bans so-called gender-affirming care for minors. The decision was 6-3, with John Roberts writing the majority decision. The usuals, led by that wise Latina, Sotomayor, dissented and predicted calamity for the transgender community. Fast-moving brush fire on the island of Maui in Hawaii caused the evacuation of 50 people. Maui, you may remember, was the scene of a devastating fire that claimed the lives of over 100 people 2 years ago. So when will Hawaii voters learn? Just toss this dipshit in a volcano already and your problems are solved. The Supreme Court recently reinstated a license granted by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to store spent nuclear waste at a site in New Mexico and 40 miles away at another site in Texas. An appeals court had invalidated the license under the Biden administration. A SpaceX rocket being tested in Texas exploded in a dramatic fireball. In an understatement, the company stated the rocket, quote, experienced a major anomaly. Yeah, I'd say so. Conservative Republican State Senator Blake Miguez has entered the race to challenge incumbent Senator, also a Republican, Bill Cassidy in Louisiana. Cassidy drew the ire of the GOP when he voted to convict Donald Trump in his 2021 impeachment trial over that January 6th bullshit. Good luck, Cassidy. He has a target on his back, and hopefully he'll be ousted. Yeah, Damian McDaniel, the Alabama man accused of killing 18 people in 2023 and 2024 in two mass shootings, will likely go on trial in April of next year. However, lawyers for McDaniel are arguing that it may be difficult to convene an impartial jury given recent gun violence in Birmingham, which just happens to be run by a Democratic mayor with a population that is 68% black. In fact, last year they set a record with 151 homicides, so way to go. The Florida Panthers won their second consecutive Stanley Cup, the holy grail of the National Hockey League, whereupon the team allegedly dented and cracked the base in their celebration. The NHL says it will be repaired for their victory parade tomorrow in Fort Lauderdale. Incidentally, congratulations to the Panthers for their victory. They were my choice. Khadijah Solomon, let's guess the ethnicity here. There she is. Was indicted by the federal government recently in Georgia. She was a Fulton County prison guard who's alleged to have used her taser abusively against 3 inmates, then lied to cover it up. Body cam footage proves that in each case, inmates were compliant. Seems like Miss Solomon got her jollies from tasing inmates for no apparent reason. And then the dumb idiot forgets to turn off her body cam. Alan Wilson, the Republican South Carolina Attorney General since 2010 and son of Representative Joe Wilson, is expected to throw his hat into the 2026 gubernatorial ring to replace term-limited Governor Henry McMaster. This race should be interesting as others like Lieutenant Governor Pam Yvette and U.S. Representative Nancy Mace are also said to be considering the job. And that's it for this week. Thank you. Have a great day. More pleasant tomorrow. Join me tomorrow when we'll take a look at the Trump administration 2.0. That's it.